Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Liz Moya. I will be facilitating the webinar today. We have lots of great folks to showcase. Our first presenter is our State Director, Anson Green. In case you don't know who that is, Anson Green is an adult education, workforce, and college trailblazer, ladies and gentlemen. His passion is deploying innovative services for low-skilled Texans to meet their life ambitions. He loves challenging legacy perspectives and developing pioneering solutions. Anson led the transformation of the $80 million Texas adult education program into a workforce solution for dropouts and immigrants seeking responsiveness to their college and career aspirations. He's a full partner to Texas employers, supporting staffing needs to grow the Texas economy. He's also been recognized several times. Most recently, he received the Champion of Literacy Award at Literacy Texas in 2017. He was also the recipient of the Local Workforce Development Board member in 2012 and 2013 when recognized by the Workforce Solutions at Alamo. He was the Most Valued Partner Award recipient for the Northeast Texas Workforce Board in 2006. And he was also a fellow at the National Institute for Literacy while at Northwest Vista College, where he studied women's barriers to education, and that was in 1999. And he was also Teacher of the Year for Adult Education while he was at Northside ISD in 1998. As you can see, his diverse background in adult and developmental education and workforce development drives a vision to deliver for solutions to student success. He is indeed the champion of all champions when it comes to AEL. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Anson Green.
Well, very happy to have everybody on the call this afternoon and the webinar, and have been really eager to get to this topic very much on a lot of people's minds related to connecting skilled immigrants to education and to employment here in Texas. In Texas, you know, we do things big, and the Texas AEL program that everybody on this call is fueling and supporting in their local communities has achieved some really great things. This is the next big thing for us, I think, in Texas. We have some really great examples to share today of some local programs that are tackling a topic that is in every classroom program in the state here, hiding right now in many of the classes and every program for sure. And this is these internationally trained professionals, individuals who have college degrees, certifications, lots of work experience outside the U.S., and now are underskilled, underworking in the U.S., underappreciated in the labor market. And we're finding some great methods and models to help accelerate those individuals into better jobs, into jobs that respect their educational background, jobs that bring them back into the peer network of professionals that they left in their home countries, and really finding ways to give them full access to what they've achieved in their life through a better economic outlook. It's a great topic that's been tackled for many years, but really in Texas we have only dabbled around the edges until the last year. And we are really tackling it this year with some great work that we've been doing with a national project called the Skilled Immigrant Integration Project that has really helped us focus what we're doing and helped the local communities, some of which you'll hear from today, in Texas really build the bench of expertise that we need. This is a snapshot of some of those folks here represented on that team. And it has been a great year that we've spent really building best practices, but now we are ready to expand. So I think we both have a problem to solve in terms of really developing local models to do this and really helping these individuals accelerate in what they're doing in terms of learning and work. But it's a huge opportunity for us as a state. Everybody knows that immigrants come to this United States to really maximize their outlooks and to become part of a dream. And for those individuals that come with degrees from other countries and certifications, they often have a dream deferred for quite a long time. And my own personal experience in San Antonio was very much the case, seeing ESL students that were MBAs, they were business teachers, they were engineers, they were all kinds of health services, and they were in ESL classes and not being served in a way that really maximized their backgrounds and got them into workforce. I always refer to them as the workforce most left behind, the workers most left behind. And that's because until recently, no part of the education or workforce system really claimed these workers as a prime customer. They kind of, everybody knows they're out there, but nobody was really doing anything strategic with them. And I aim to change that here in Texas AEL, and for sure these programs that we're going to listen to today are going to tell us what they're doing. There's some great research on this. If you start doing some Google searches, and I'd like you to start at this report right here. The link is on the page. There was a special report done by the fabulous organization Migration Policy Institute that really delves into the demographic data and into the workforce development data. And they found some really stunning things about highly skilled Mexican immigrants in the United States and in Texas. So this report is specifically related to skilled Mexican immigrants. Of course, in Texas we have a wide variety of them, but just to look at the Mexican immigrants in this report was just stunning. Some background. First off, 27% of all college-educated immigrants live in Texas. So of the whole United States, we have over a quarter of these skilled immigrants in Texas. That's a huge untapped asset for our economy and for our employers. And two-thirds of them are naturalized citizens. Thus, they can work in the U.S. They're ready to work. They are working. They're just not working in their fields most often. This is the numbers that were really jumped out at me. So if they looked at some of the major cities, and of course, just because of the magnitude of Houston and Dallas, they have the largest numbers of these workers, 39,000 skilled immigrants in Houston and 33,000 in Dallas. But in terms of the share of skilled immigrants, of all immigrants, the area around the border, starting from San Antonio down to the Lower Rio Grande River area, down and then up to El Paso, this border region had double-digit numbers of all immigrants. Double digits were skilled immigrants, 11% in San Antonio in the Valley, 12% and 13% in El Paso. So that says something about the fact that these individuals are hitting these large urban centers, still maintaining some proximity to Mexico, and they're here in America. They're working. But what are we doing with them in AEL? And we haven't been doing much until recently, and now we've got some great work that our presenters today are going to be able to share with you. You know, our system is a broad system. We're really well situated to do this. We've got our grant recipients of all types of organizations, and then within those grant recipients, as you know, we have lots of partnerships, and this is where I'm really proud of adult education, because we have shifted from being an educational solution to those students to being a solution provider for multiple types of needs that students bring in. These individuals that are internationally trained professionals, they come in and they think they may just be getting an ESL class, and they need that ESL class most likely, and that's great. But in these projects we're going to hear from in a little bit, and in some of the other projects out there, some of you folks that I see in the chat room, you are also providing another service, and that's a service to connect these individuals to a workforce development strategy to help them really regain their position as a professional from another country, now regain that reputation and that the wages and the stature that they had, regain it here in America and in Texas. So we're going to hear from some great presenters here from Austin, San Antonio area, and Beaumont. So we have a wide variety of area there and a wide variety of different organizations. I'm representing Austin here, and then we have San Antonio with Restore Education, and Beaumont, we have Region 5 Educational Service Center that does such great work out there in the southeast Texas area. So I'm going to turn it over to San Antonio real quick here and have San Antonio talk about what you're doing there in Restore Education. In San Antonio, I'll give you all a little bit of background. As many of y'all know, I live there still, and I worked there for many years. But when I was at Alamo Colleges, I ran one of 9 centers in the United States that were designed for internationally trained professionals. The one here, the one in San Antonio, that's no longer there, but the work is now going to be continued through Restore Ed. But these were called Welcome Back Centers, and they were designed specifically for internationally trained professionals. And we did this case management service to help these individuals get back into health care. They were doing all kinds of other jobs, but they were not in health care. They were doctors, they were psychologists, they were dentists, they were phlebotomists, they were nurses of all types. And the one thing that I just took away, we used to meet on Saturday mornings, and that was the best time for everybody to kind of get together. And the networking, we would have 60 individuals from all over the world, all healthcare professionals together. And I really realized right then that this was such an untapped workforce and untapped hope for these individuals. They were networking, they were finding opportunities, they were getting back into their jobs. And I wasn't providing, any great miracle of a service except bringing them together. We were doing ESL classes. We were connecting them and understanding and recognizing their credentials. But they were doing a lot of their own workforce development work because, how is Anson Green going to really help a doctor become a doctor again? I don't have the skills to do that, but I had the network and had built the resources to help those doctors or those engineers and others figure out how to connect into the workforce system of San Antonio, where to go next, who was the licensing board, who did they need to call. So I really just became like a convener and a networker, and then brought these people together, and they did more of the work amongst themselves because they were all going down similar journeys and could share so much expertise. So if you're out there thinking, wow, this is too big for me, I don't know how we could ever start something like this, my first thought would be it's not as hard as you think. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not something that it takes a miracle to accomplish. And the fact that there really is no service right now, most likely in your community, means that any service you do is just a tremendous asset. So I'm going to turn it over to Restore Ed in San Antonio and have them talk through what they're going to be working on. So San Antonio, let's hear from you and Restore Education. Thank you.
I do want to take the opportunity to welcome our next presenter. This is Kelly Rhodes. She is the Executive Director at Restore Education. She's been there since 2012, and she is a teacher and administrator for middle and high school. Her master's degree is in business administration, and she is a certified manager of program improvement. This is the certification you obtain from the Leadership Excellence Academy, so that's a little plug for any of you considering to participate in that. So at this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Kelly Rhodes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. As Liz mentioned, I'm with Restore Education. So we're a nonprofit in San Antonio, Texas. We're part of the local consortium, actually. It was led by Region 20, along with 7 other providers that serves approximately 7,000 to 8,000 students per year. We have one main learning center and 6 partner sites all across Bexar County. And through our various AEL programs, last year we served about 680 students. So compared to some of the other districts, we're a relatively small program in our area. Just to give you an overview of our student population, the majority of our students are women. A large portion are actually youth between the ages of 16 and 24. And most of the students coming to us have a goal of earning their HSC, but we also offer ESL, college prep, and career training. Just over a quarter of our students last year self-identified as English language learners, and almost half of these were internationally trained professionals with a degree from outside of the U.S. We offer several IETs, and almost half of the students that participated in these trainings last year were English language learners. In our work with internationally trained professionals, we've noticed some interesting characteristics. While their backgrounds are varied, the most common that we see in our area are education, engineering, accounting, and healthcare. As Anson mentioned, a lot of these students are coming to us initially for just ESL, and some for short-term training to secure a higher paying immediate job. However, we found that many individuals don't realize or maybe have been misinformed about the possibility of re-entering their professions here in the United States. So once we're able to meet with them and learn more about their situation and their background and explain our program and what we can offer, most, if not all of them, are very interested in utilizing their prior education and degrees, and many others are very interested in pursuing an advanced degree here in the United States. So let's take a minute and hear from you. What are the most common backgrounds or goals that you see in your work with ITPs?
Yes, so please let us know, as Kelly was mentioning, what are the most common backgrounds and or goals that you find in your work with internationally trained professionals. These are those students or participants that have a degree in another country. We do have one from Angie. She says engineering, business administration, and healthcare. Gamaliel says lawyers. So thank you for adding. And Mauro adds teacher and business. Diane listed business owners and construction. Interesting. That's an interesting one. Carol adds that they have a wide variety of students with ITPs that include teachers, business owners, and culinary arts. Yoliette mentions accountants. And then Anson added most career clusters and often many years of low-wage work outside their occupation and years looking for information on how to navigate the system within their field of study.
Wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. Next, I want to quickly walk you all through our program model. Our intake for internationally trained professionals is intentionally very high touch. After students complete the enrollment form and the PEARL, they're flagged by our data clerks for our navigators. Then they complete orientation and testing, and they're scheduled for a personal interview with a dedicated navigator for this population. They next have a private one-on-one conversation where our staff is able to walk them through a series of questions that cover their education and employment backgrounds, any potential employment obstacles, and most importantly, they discuss their career and employment education goals. This interview really allows our staff and the student the time to develop a service plan together. Depending on the student's goals and their English proficiency, they're able to take part in several of the following classes. They can enroll in our blended ESL class or a conversational ESL, which we've contextualized for workplace readiness. Each of these are offered multiple times throughout the year, and we have varying schedule options from which to choose. We have other ITPs that are interested in instruction for math for the workplace, or maybe interested in pursuing an advanced degree and they need to prepare for the TOEFL and need to learn college success skills. They can also enroll in those courses, which are offered throughout the year. And then several other students, due to family responsibilities, choose to enroll in some IETs so that they're able to obtain immediate employment and provide for their families. We do, however, make sure to work with them during this time to plan for next steps, including the translation and evaluation of their degrees, and to prepare for employment in their field or college once their situation is stabilized. And then finally, throughout a student's journey with us, we offer continued support of that dedicated navigator alongside the variety of instructional options. These supports include personalized advising. Similar to a case manager, she's developed that rapport and relationship with the student, and she offers ongoing personal appointments, career advice, college enrollment support, employment assistance, and guidance through the transcript, translation, and evaluation process. We also have several other nonprofit agencies that are actually located on site in our main center that provide more intensive case management and financial assistance. They're able actually to help us cover part of the cost of the translation and evaluation services. And they also offer emergency food assistance, bus passes, financial literacy, and more.
Kelly,
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to pause. There is a question that we have. One of the questions that we have is when does this interviewing occur? You did mention that it was at intake, but I'm assuming they're wanting to know a little bit more information about that process.
Sure. That's a great question. So we spread our intake out over a couple of days to fit with the student's schedule. Since we're more of an individualized program, we have a little bit more flexibility. So these students maybe come in and complete the application in the Pearl, and there are a series of questions that we've added onto our application that kind of probe so that we can find out and identify ITPs early, so that the next time they do come in, they're scheduled and connected directly to that navigator, and they then set up a follow-up appointment where they can sit down in a private space and go through these additional questions. So it could take anywhere from 1 to 3 days to fully kind of get through this process. We want to make sure that we don't miss these students and they're not just shuffled into just a regular ESL class and that we are not able to meet their needs. So, great question.
Another question that we have is, do you require any type of paperwork or any documents that you collect?
So that's a great question. Yes, we do ask students once they are able to meet with the navigator to bring in any and all of their educational documents. That way we can look them over and kind of develop what those next steps are. So. All right, so as I was mentioning, we found this additional wraparound support from the advisor and some of our partners to really be critical to our students' overall success. I want to take a quick second and then ask the audience again, what are some specialized services that you're currently providing internationally trained professionals? And if not, what are also some services that you would like to add if you could?
We do have a response from Diane. She says, we have a career navigator who I believe helps such students. We have an ESL professionals class that is offered. Thank you, Diane. Gamaliel says, onboarding to an IET and transcript translation and advising. So that's wonderful. Angie says, we provide degree validation and career counseling. We also help students create an e-portfolio. Very interesting, going in the direction of digital portfolio. And Kelly, I take it back to you.
All right, thank you all. I just wanted to emphasize, finally, the importance of partnerships in our work in serving internationally trained professionals. We couldn't offer these intensive services without their support. We work with several nonprofits, as I mentioned, especially agencies like Catholic Charities and Goodwill, who were able to offer case management to us. We work closely with several colleges and universities to streamline enrollment processes for our students who are interested in pursuing advanced degrees. They offer dedicated advisors for our students. And then we leverage additional funds from local foundations and work closely with the city to provide needed financial assistance for this population. And we have a couple employer partners who are able to provide on-site job fairs, tours of the workplace, and interviews to this population.
Kelly, we do have another comment, and this is from Brenda Field. She says, counseling and advising. This is in regards to the question earlier, that this is what they offer. Counseling and advising, tuition/training through IETs, ESL for professionals, transcript translation, paid through integrated EL civics, and much more. So she left us on a cliffhanger with a much more. So thank you, Brenda. So any other final comments you'd like to share, Kelly?
That was it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kelly. And the party continues because we still have another presenter. And so I'd like to take this moment to go ahead and present our third presenter for today. And this is going to be Claudette Session. Claudette Session is from Restore 5. She's the instructional lead for Region 5 Service Center for AEL. She's a trainer for Content Standards 1.0 and 2.0, a Best Plus 2.0, TAPE Class E, CASAS, HEART, and Right from the Start. She's the coordinator of Region 5's IET ELC Academies and a member of the Texas AEL Skilled Immigrant Integration Program cohort and chair of Region 5's Welcome Center for Internationally Trained Professionals. She's also a member of the 2019 Instructional Leadership Excellence Academy. So I think we need a little AEL quiz after that slide, but welcome, Claudette. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Liz. Good afternoon, everyone. As Liz mentioned, I am with Region 5 Adult Education and Literacy Program. We serve a 3-county area in southeast Texas that is known as the Golden Triangle. The 3 counties are Jefferson County, Orange County, and Hardin County. Our program reaches about 1,200 students per program year. And if you look at the demographics, you'll notice that about 72% of those adults are female and 28% are male. Around 564, or 47% of our students, enroll in our ESL classes, and the other 53% are in our adult basic education and adult secondary education classes. 67% of our ESL adults have at least a high school diploma, and 25% are internationally trained professionals in a variety of different fields. The 3 most prevalent are health science, education, and business. Now, TEAMS data shows that more than half of our ESL adults pre-test at the beginning literacy or the low and high beginning literacy levels. And as I will describe in more detail a little later, that information gives both the learner and the instructor very clear direction in terms of plotting out the ESL professional's ITEC plan, or for that matter, any student's ITEC plan. The beginning of that plan is the intake process. How does the intake process work in your program? Do you use a general Pearl to gather information about ESL professionals, or do you have a special intake form for this population?
And so while we wait for some of the responses, Carol has indicated that they use the Pearl. And so thank you, Carol, for that. Risa says we added questions to the Pearl interview that ask for this information. Very nice. And Angie says that they use the general Pearl. So we have a little bit of everything. We have from as is, and then those that have modified the Pearl. And then Mauda also added the general Pearl. So thank you for adding to that and responding.
Yes, thank you for your responses. We have found that our first date or our first encounter with our internationally trained professionals is crucial to establishing a relationship that results in the ITPs persisting and reaching both their short and long-term learning and employment goals. During the initial intake meeting, the dialogue begins with a formal welcome to the program and the program site and mutual introductions. After the two-way introductions, the focus of the conversation turns to the ITP in a very conversational format instead of a hardcore interview format. This allows the ITP, who very often is nervous about meeting new people, to relax and openly share. So all of the pertinent questions are posed and answered, but they are answered in the flow of a natural conversation instead of a strict question-answer format. And what are some of those important and pertinent questions for ITP? I find it essential to ask a series of questions regarding the ITP's educational background. We know that the Pearl requires documentation of the highest grade completed by each participant. Now, sometimes in response to that question, an ITP will say, I'm a dentist, or a doctor, or a teacher. And the typical follow-up questions I will ask include, how many years did you attend college or a technical school? Where did you attend? What type of degree or certificate do you have? May I have a copy of that degree or certificate along with a copy of your high school diploma for your folder? Have you had your credentials translated and are evaluated? And what type of work did you do as a dentist? Hygiene, root canals, orthodontics, or as a doctor? General surgery, taking vitals, scanning organs? This is an important question because we found that titles such as dentist or doctor in some countries are granted for the United States equivalent of dental assistant or medical technician or the like. While on the topic of work experience, we also ask follow-up questions such as, do you have work experience in the United States, and or are you eligible to work and attend school here? What type of visa do you have? Are you a permanent resident or a citizen? What type of work would you like to do, or what are your goals going forward? Learning or improving their English is almost always identified as the first goal, and then working in their area of expertise or having a career in another area is a close second. When they mention a desire to work or study, I follow that up with questions such as, what is your availability? Do you have children? If so, do you have child care for them? Are there other barriers that may interfere with your attending class, working, or studying? What brings you to the city, and what are your residency plans? Or how long do you plan to stay here? We've had ITPs who are in the area only for about 2 to 4 months while they await the transfer of a spouse to a different job site, or while they await the location of affordable housing in a different area. And so we wouldn't want to get them involved in a tuition or a site-based IEP if they will not be present long enough to complete it. What are some of the other questions that you ask your ITPs during intake?
And so we do have a couple of questions, Claudette. One of the questions that we have is if you could please explain or describe blended learning.
Okay, sure. And that's actually a little later, but I'll go ahead and tell you that blended learning is a combination of face-to-face instruction along with online learning, and currently we're using Burlington English. And for our ITPs, we set it up so that the online learning hours are equivalent to the classroom face-to-face hours or more, so that they get an immersive type experience of language learning.
Wonderful. Good description. Thank you for that. And then we do have a request from Maria asking, Claudette, could we have a list of questions you ask the students as well as the follow-up questions?
Okay, sure.
I'm going to post your email at the very end of the session, and then we'll ask everyone who's really interested to email you. That way you don't get bombarded with needless information, so we'll go ahead and do that. Any other questions, please include those in the chat pod, and then Claudette, we'll head it back to you.
Okay. So with this type of educational, residential, familial, and work-related information in hand, we are then able to dialogue about the career pathway options we have available using our academy structure, which you see on the right of this slide. Obviously, in plotting out a career pathway, we deal with the language issue first. We offer, as I just mentioned, all of our ITPs a blended learning option that includes, as I mentioned, face-to-face instruction and online learning with Burlington English. The online component, of course, allows them access to English practice in all 4 skill areas whenever they desire. We have actually found through action research that such blended learning helps to accelerate the language learning process for our ITPs. For those without internet access or even computers, we have a language lab available, or when necessary, we are able to check out laptops and our jetpacks to them. The Workforce Integration Plan, or the Career Pathway Plan, plots out short-term goals which lead to the ITP's ultimate long-term goals. Each short-term success is celebrated along the way. The plan, of course, is flexible because both the ESL professionals and instructors recognize that as the ITPs evolve in their new surroundings, that their minds and their focus may change. So it's important to frequently review their goals and their pathway and to be ready to make adjustments as necessary. Within each general area in this academy structure that you see, there are multiple pathways for workforce entry. So, for example, in our Education Academy, we have a partnership with one independent school district that offers degree teachers the following entry options. Option 1 involves our degree teachers applying for, and if approved, being eligible to take positions as long-term substitutes. Long-term substitutes become the teacher of record in this particular district because they have significant teacher shortages. Candidates must have at least 60 hours of college credit, and they need to be enrolled in a teacher certification program. Our Education Service Center has a TCP, a teacher certification program, so enrollment can be facilitated fairly easy in partnership with our ESC. Option 2 allows learners with degrees to serve as tutors to students on a one-on-one basis. This option is appealing to many of our ITPs because it allows for flexible hours. Option 3 involves degree teachers teaching an after-school program. These classes meet 2 days a week from about 3:45 to 6 o'clock on Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays. Option 4 provides the opportunity for approved degreed teachers to teach in summer school programs. And Option 5 is work as an instructional aide on a permanent basis or temporarily while the ITPs are preparing to take the TOEFL. All of these options are salaried options. A unique set of options exists for the other academies that were on the slide before, and we are able to offer so many options through our 50 partnerships, actually over 50 partnerships, that Region 5 AEL has with businesses, industries, schools, colleges, and universities in our service area. Some of our partners are listed on this slide. The Education Academy that I just described came about after we approached the superintendent and the HR personnel of this district. We introduced ourselves and let them know about our program, and then immediately we turned the focus of the conversation to their needs. We asked them, what are your needs, and how might we help you to meet them? And from there, we started building those options that I just described. Employer engagement such as this is key to making the puzzle pieces fit for our ITPs. And what about your programs? What kinds of partnerships do you have in your programs that put ITPs to work?
We do have a comment from Anne. She says that's great detail to know about an employment options, because you did give us lots of great resources. We do have a question asking who is the one responsible for setting up these partnerships at your site?
Well, as Anne put it the other day, for right now, I'm carrying the water, but we have for this academy structure, but our partnership, because our program is well known in the area, sometimes we have businesses approach us, and then we tell them about the different programs we have and the different initiatives that we have or would like to start, and somehow, the academy structure grows out that way.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And I don't have any other questions, but I do encourage our listeners, this is your prime opportunity. You have 3 guest speakers, and this is the time for you to ask all your heart out, any questions you might have on serving internationally trained students. So back to you, Claudette.
Okay. Our college partnerships are very robust. For example, Lamar State College Port Arthur not only provides us with classrooms for teaching, but their academic and enrollment advisors are at our disposal to work closely with our students to get them enrolled and registered if they want to pursue a particular training offered there. The advisors help them identify, complete, and obtain the necessary paperwork and documents required for enrollment, and they follow our students in their progress throughout the entire training experience. Additionally, the Continuing Education Department of Lamar Port Arthur will even design a certification course specifically for our ITPs when we have 10 or more wanting to pursue a particular certification or training to get entry into a certain field. On campus, our ITPs have access to the library, the student center, the job fairs, and all of the benefits and programs that traditional students enjoy. Lamar Port Arthur has even provided us space in our ESL HSE building for another initiative that has grown out of our recent work with the Skilled Immigrant Integration Program. And that initiative is a Center for Internationally Trained Professionals. Modeled after the Welcome Center for New Pennsylvanians, the mission of the Center for Internationally Trained Professionals, or CITPRO for short, is inclusive economic growth through immigrant integration. So as our flyer says, the center is a place where we help internationally trained professionals advance their English language proficiency and find positions in the workforce which allow them to use their expertise and skills. At the same time, we provide opportunities for employers to engage with our ITPs and to provide work experience and hire skilled staff to build their workforce. The services we provide to our ITPs at CITPRO include English language instruction, customized action plan development, college admission assistance, meaningful work experience, career workforce integration guide navigation, credential evaluation through LSCPA's agencies, employability skills refreshment training, professional development, networking, and civic engagement opportunities. All of these services are provided in tandem with our program partners and with our ITP alumni who serve as wonderful mentors to newcomers to the program. In reality, our ESL professionals have always benefited from these services, but the center provides a way to centralize these activities. Our center is a work in progress, as is our SIP initiative. It's in its infancy stages now, our center is, but as we continue to develop our outcomes, we hope to broaden our mission and our work for ITPs who visit us. So at this time, do you have any questions you would like to ask Anson, Kelly, or myself concerning what we've shared today?
So there are some questions, Claudette, but I'm going to go ahead and start with a comment. And this is from Diane. She says, I don't know of any partnership with having with our local ESC. I will suggest that to my AEL department, but hey, we struck gold there because now you've made that connection. So thank you for that, Diane. And then Yoliette is asking, how long does your ITP program last, and what is the average level of an ITP student? Great question.
Okay, so the length of the program will vary with the ITP depending on where the ITP enters in terms of language level because, of course, we as instructors, but the ITPs themselves want to be very confident and advanced in their English language proficiency before actually moving into the workplace. So that's going to vary. And as I mentioned before, the majority of our ITPs enter at the beginning low literacy language level. And so when they take advantage of the blended learning, they tend to move up fairly rapidly. But with each student, it just varies because the time dedication varies from student to student.
Perfect. And so now we do, as Claudette mentioned, now the forum is open. If you'd like to ask our State Director, Anson Green, or Kelly on her presentation, or Claudette, now's the time. Any question can be placed on the table. Don't limit yourself. This is it, you know. I do have a question here, and the question is, if we are not currently serving foreign degree students in a separate class, where do we even start?
Yeah, let me, I was going to see if Kelly or Claudette could think about that too. So the first thing, you know, I think initially the first thing is to, you know, build awareness amongst all your staff that this is a topic worth paying a lot of attention to because, you know, these individuals are going to be in classes already. They will have been, you know, in classes sometimes for a long time. Teachers will know, you know, they can easily slip through the cracks in intake. And then an ESL teacher, as soon as you bring it up, they say, well, yeah, I have a pharmacist in my class. You know, when I taught ESL in San Antonio, I remember, you know, multiple times having professionals in the class, And I didn't think much about it. I thought, wow, that's, amazing. This guy's a pharmacist, or this guy's an engineer, this individual, this lady's an OB. And I thought, I never thought, well, maybe we should do something different. Maybe there's something better. They were great students, of course. They're very astute. They have degrees. They had more learning than I did, more education than I did. So I think some awareness is very important initially to begin just kind of creating the discussion. And that can be some professional development. That could be sitting around and viewing this webinar. That could be, a wide variety of things. So we're going to be doing more webinars on this topic in the coming year. You collect this information, in intake as part of the Pearl elements. And so someone is, signaling this kind of level of education at intake. And that's where initially, a side list of these names of individuals coming in should be created if you did want to start a specialized class, because that would be probably the next phase of this would be to, these individuals should not be taught in the same class with individuals that have minimal language and education in their native country, just because they excel and they can accelerate through learning much quicker. They have a very strong study framework. So, if you had, you may be surprised if you went through your roster of all students that you saw at the very beginning, the percentages of students in some of these areas of the state, you might have enough to make a specialized class. And it doesn't have to be occupation specific, but it could be, accelerated. And it could be one where things like prep for the TOEFL test could be one of the objectives and some of those things. So, those are some of the initial steps I would share. Anybody else have some they'd like to share?
Kelly, I'm going to bring the question to you because I know you mentioned that one of the key components started at intake, and you developed those additional questions, and I know that someone had asked if you could share those, but would you be able to give us one or two questions that you added that you think were, or you thought were critical that they had to be generated and provided at intake?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm just kind of looking. We've kind of compiled a survey from some other programs, but just, asking if they've had their credentials evaluated. I think Claudette mentioned this. How many years of work experience do they have? Any info on maybe if they had any convictions in their home country or things like that. And then if they're even interested in continuing in their profession. Some individuals actually want to start over and do something different. So kind of finding out that from the get-go is very important. I would add to what Anson said, we're a relatively small program, and we started our work with internationally trained professionals kind of by accident, not realizing that we were serving these individuals, and so they were integrated in our regular ESL class, and so we've kind of gradually been able to add these supplemental services and serve them more intentionally over the past several years.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. And I do know that we have a couple more minutes. And Anson, I just wanted to give you the platform before we sign off, if there were any last words you wanted to share about this project.
I sure do, yes. And I want to thank Kelly and Claudette, just excellent presenters and great content. I learned a lot myself right here. One thing I'd like to leave with is an area that I think wasn't touched on much, but those of you that are doing workplace literacy programs with businesses, one thing I stumbled upon was that employers often have these individuals, working within a company, and are thrilled to hear, because they never knew, they never asked, maybe they didn't screen for this in their HR hiring, but, that they have individuals within the, ESL class at the company that could really accelerate into management or into supervision or into other things because they have a degree, and just no one ever asked, and everyone kind of assumed they were a low-skilled worker because they had limited English. So workplace environments is a very good one. I noticed, too, that often internationally trained professionals gravitate back to the organizations or the types of work that they were trained in. And what I mean by that is I ran across several, when I was doing a training for our local school districts in San Antonio of cafeteria workers one summer. These were workers that were kind of getting basic skills and getting brushed up to go back into the cafeteria as cafeteria workers. But some of them were teachers from other countries, and they just wanted to be back in a school and back around kids. So they took a job in the cafeteria. But they had no idea that, they could get into a bilingual instruction program at the local community college and start moving down that route. Another place I ran across it was at a large hospital in San Antonio. They had nurses that were working in the commissary and in environmental services, cleaning rooms. And they were nurses from other countries, but they wanted to be back in a hospital. So sometimes some real explicit questioning and awareness building just goes a long way. The last thing I'll leave you guys with is that in Haley Conference on February 12th, we're having a whole session dedicated to career navigators. And as you can pick up from the presenters today, a lot of this work falls into the kind of handbag of the career navigator, into the work load of the career navigator. And so we're going to focus on internationally trained professionals as part of that career navigator session. There'll be other things, but it might be a great place for you to think about sending your career navigators if that's where you want to start building capacity on that topic. Anyway, thank you very much for all the presenters, and Liz, just your fabulous facilitation of the webinar for us today.
Well, thank you. I'd like to just take this opportunity to thank Anson, Kelly, and Claudette for taking your time from your busy schedule and prepping all last week while we were all traveling. So thank you so much for doing this. And thank you to our listeners for logging in. I know you have classes to teach and programs to run. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope to see you online for our part 2 on this topic in January. So we'll share further details to come. So thank you so much to everyone. Thank you very much. There you go. Those are the gurus to ask. So send all your requests to them, asking about those questions that you'd like to see on the sample interview forms. But thank you, everyone else, for joining us today. Really appreciate it.